Libby. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. No, I'm excited to come back in. I know it's been a couple weeks, so
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we talked last time, and I really enjoyed our conversation. And I wanted to see how it's going for you. Like really, like how are you doing, Libby?
I'm doing okay. Of course, like for my personal past life and like aspects, I think great. I have a job I love and great students, great kids, great husband. So all of that, is thriving, but on the other side, I still have my mom and dad, and family, brothers and things that are on the other side of that in Eastern Oregon, that I'm still kind of estranged from. And so that part doesn't feel good. But I've done a couple things since we last talked to kind of reach out in some type of way, I guess.
Hey, well, I want to hear more about that. Before we jump in, I want to remind you that everything that you say to me is confidential, okay? And that means I can't share that with
Okay.
anybody else. You're perfectly safe to say the thing that you can't really say to anybody, maybe, and say the thing maybe that you are afraid of. But there's just a couple conditions about confidentiality that the law, and we talked about those a couple times. So just if you ever start to feel like you want to take your own life, and you share that with me, I will have to report that because for your own protection. And if you, I know this would never happen, but if you were telling me about somebody else that was getting hurt or a child or an elder or someone that was disabled, that's also under mandatory reporting and I would have to report that. So outside of that, you're secret safe with me. The only other thing that
Okay.
might happen is if somebody, subpoenaed me to testify. And I had to testify by a judge, not even by a lawyer or anything like that. So this almost never happens in therapy. And then only to the extent that I was being asked. And so
Okay.
it wouldn't be like your whole file. But my again, I'm associate counselor still, so I'm under supervision. And I shared that with you last time. So I'll just send an email to follow up with this call today to give you all that again so you can look at that. But getting back to you
Okay.
and your feeling about making some inroads since last time. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I've been texting back and forth with my dad and especially just like sending him videos of my kids and like I think that's been like a huge piece of it. Like I miss him, but my kids especially like that's always been like their favorite grandparent. They're like Papa Rich and Cha Cha, which is his now wife, which I don't know if I told you this, but another reason why I was kind of like, well, I still, I guess, am like hesitant to like rekindle that whole relationship is just that like they went off and got married like on Christmas, or not, it was Christmas, it was, I think, Thanksgiving. Um, and I only found out by getting on Facebook. So it was like a huge, like they've been together for like a year, little bit over that. So it wasn't like a huge shock. Like I figured they'd get married, but just the fact that like they didn't tell it anyone and like they were just like, all right, here world, like it just didn't, it wasn't a great way to find out. So I
Sounds like
just
that
still
hurt your
question
feelings.
like,
Yeah, did that hurt your feelings? How did that make you feel? Like,
yeah.
what was the initial emotion that you had when you discovered it on Facebook?
Sadness, like my heart dropped into my stomach and sick. Like I I was always, I feel like closer with my dad than with my mom. And like my mom and I are still pretty strained too, and she's a huge narcissist, and so it's like always been like if you don't see things her way, then it's no way kind of situation. And so she also has a new boyfriend and he's weird. I'm just gonna put it out there. I
Oh,
try to
okay.
give everyone the the benefit of the doubt. I really do. But he's different. And I try to, continue to be open-minded. I know I shouldn't, be so hard on him, but and I do appreciate that he takes care of my mom and whatnot, but yeah, it's all been pretty heavy and a lot. And like I said, I think it's been so much easier to just focus on my own family, my kids and my husband and work and kind of shut all of that out. But at the same time, it's like I know I can't do that forever.
I do. I'm thinking about what you're saying. And it occurs to me that you have some ambivalence about your relationship with your mom for sure, and even maybe with your dad. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that is it feels like you want to have a relationship with them, but it feels like maybe it's not possible that they can be the kind of parents that you need. Is that even close to what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think so. And it's always like I kind of like I was the third kid and I kind of, raised myself and, especially being a farm kid, we were always working and like and I don't, I very much I appreciate my childhood and it was great and also not great in a lot of ways. I feel like they always focused on like everybody else's problems versus their own. And obviously, I think that's why, here we are. Our family is like torn apart kind of thing. Um, and I guess now I also worry about, my daughter growing up and not wanting a relationship with me, not being good enough for her kind of thing. And I'm like, that devastates me because I try to do all the things that I feel like my mom, you know, wasn't. So, yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot. And I think again, it's easier to focus on kind of putting that all on the back burner and just continuing to be the best that I can be for my kids. But um, yeah, again, I think it's hard when I'm not sure what to do, but then my kids are also asking, like, hey, what about these other people? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So if we could get under that a little bit more, I mean, I don't want to be too invasive because I don't want to stir up a lot of
Yeah.
uncomfortable feelings for you, but it feels like you have a feeling like there was something about you that your parents didn't love or like didn't accept, or like you didn't have the close relationship with them that you would have liked. And now it like
Right.
makes you feel like your children would do that to you because of the value that you have for yourself, almost like, I mean, just how you see yourself. It's like, oh, there must be something wrong with me, so maybe my
Yeah.
children will reject me too. Do you think this is more about that? The feeling that
Yeah.
you have about your parents is more about being afraid about your children rejecting you than it is really about reuniting in some kind of ideal way with your parents?
I mean, I never thought about it like that. Maybe. Um, it's hard because they're toddlers, they're 4 and 5, and we haven't even hit the teenage years. So I'm sure once we hit those, I'll be like, yep, yep. But I think right now it's just more stemming from I think it's especially hard when I see, all my friends and people around me that are so close with their moms and dads, and you know, in return, they're being awesome grandparents for their grandkids and like all those things. And it's like, I wish I had that, but I never will. So it's just always going to be a piece of me that's missing.
It could always be like that, but since you're in counseling, there's a chance that you can look at that in a more empowering way. Are you open to doing that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think you deserve to be feeling like you have control about how you perceive what's going on.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, because like I've always had this perspective, and I think I hope I always will, that, you know, you're no one's promised tomorrow, and I would feel god awful if, you know, if, God forbid something happened to my mom or dad, you know, those people like I I just yeah, like I said, I'm kind of at a stuck place where again, dealing with a narcissist is not easy, but I think if there's ways where you could recommend that I can like rechannel that and like so that it doesn't get flipped on me kind of thing and that it doesn't lead to an unhealthy conversation, it can just continue to be like a positive one would be good.
Well, okay, so the thing that I find curious is that last time I asked you what an ideal outcome would look like, and you were really not sure. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
think that it's an interesting, it speaks an interesting thing because on the surface, it looks like you want to have a, a be reunited with your parents in a way that you never were as a child. Like you just embrace each other, you're very close, and that you're like your friends, you have a relationship with them that is similar to your friends' relationships with
Yeah.
parents. But we can't pick
Yeah,
our relatives. We can pick our friends, but we can't pick our relatives. So that's the unfortunate truth of humanity.
for sure.
You don't get to pick your past
Yeah,
either. It already happened. So it's not like you can choose to have a different past, but you can choose what the meaning of that past is for you when you go forward. And I feel like you're in a
for sure.
very different place as a human, as a person than you were as a child, because at that time you were at the mercy of whatever they were going with scraps they were going to give you. And now you're in an abundant,
Yeah.
loving relationship with a partner that adores you and children that absolutely adore you. At this time, at this age that your children are, they worship you. You're everything to them. And you know that already. And you're at school working with children, and you know that people count on you and appreciate you. Get a lot. You told me that you're so thankful for your life. So if you're willing to take a journey
Yeah.
with me to explore your past from a different perspective, instead of from a child that has no option, which you're clearly not anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can look at your parents as
Yeah, that would be
two people that really had no idea what they were doing and were doing the best that they could. And maybe they are unable to be the parents that you would have liked or will be or unable to be. Clearly they are today unable to be the parents that you would prefer,
yeah.
but they are who they are, and you can love them for giving you life, and you can acknowledge that they did the best that they could, and that has no reflection upon your value.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. You know, I think that that's really good to hear and that's kind of what my motto and I don't know what to say about it, but that's how I've always kind of thought. So, but I think I forgot about that. Um, and it, you know, it's just been such a hard, overwhelming time. So bringing me back to that that's huge. Yeah.
Libby, I care about you, and I know that you're a lovely person, and you're very lovable and loving, and there's nothing about you that's not lovable and loving. And I could probably get 50 people behind me that would all say the same thing. So it really isn't about you, is it? Don't you think it's about them?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Yeah, that makes me
it's
feel a
the,
lot better actually.
I think your parents are broken. I'm sorry. Some people are broken, and it might have been their childhood.
Yeah, no, they very much are. Yeah. It's like yeah, they're shattered pieces and then we just kind of ran off and it's like, oh shit, what do we do now? But you know, it it teaches you, you know, resilience for sure.
Well, that's a
And
good way to put it.
it
Libby,
teaches
think
you
about
what
that.
kind of parent
Resilience, resilience can only come from suffering.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
literally,
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah.
nobody gets resilience unless they have to suffer. Like there's nothing to have resilience for. If
Yeah,
you never have anything heavy on you, then you can't spring back because that thing pushed you down. So, like, if you and I could
for
work
sure.
together on a way to recast the narrative to not be like there was something wrong with you as the reason, which is the only thing a child can think. And again, you know this because you're a counselor for
Yeah,
children. Children blame themselves when their
yeah,
parents are idiots. Children blame themselves when their parents get divorced.
yeah,
You see it right in front of you. You see kids breaking
yeah,
in two right in front of you.
yeah. No, it's very tough, but I think that's it's tough, but it's also, helpful that I'm able to be relatable in that sense and to actually, when I say I understand, it's like I genuinely do. Like it sucks. So
It does
it's
suck.
like, I guess, f making lemons or making lemonade with lemons kind of situation.
Well, I find that people that I work with that are able to create a new narrative that puts them in a role where they overcame their background and now that gives them perspective and contrast so that they live a life that's quite opposite from the one that they did not have a choice to live. Because truly, Libby, we cannot go back and
Yeah,
reparent your parents so that they are good to you. Like that's already in the past. And it's safe in the
right,
past too, because it's not going to and come back and affect you now. Like that's over. And you
right.
are amazing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
an amazing, you wouldn't probably even be in counseling if you hadn't had it. That kind of emotional suffering, even to this
yeah,
day. But you can keep a relationship, obviously, with your dad because he's talking to you. So if you want to go see him, he would love to see you. And the relationship you have with your mom is up to you more than it is up to her because it's going to be like you're going to
yeah,
have to decide if you're willing to have that narcissistic relationship on her terms. I mean, you're like, well, I don't want to abandon my parents,
right,
right? Like I don't want to be a bad daughter. But
right,
if your mom is like not down to do, you know what I mean, to play a 50% role in a relationship, that's on
right,
her. That's all on her. Like
for
you
sure.
can't make somebody do something.
Yeah,
That's she has free will just like you do. So if you offer her the same test
yeah,
that you're offering your dad and she doesn't bounce the ball back over the net like tennis, then that's on her. And you're like, hey, maybe she's just not in a place to be engaging with me today. And it's not about me. That's her loss, whatever,
yeah,
you
for
know?
sure. Yeah,
It,
no, that's a really good way to look at it for sure.
it
And
is
I
her
think
loss.
helpful
It's
because, yeah, it's just knowing that it's not always, yeah, about me and taking a step back, I think is important.
I think you're also going to feel a little bit more, it's more maybe more satisfying for you to get good at this because if you can master
Yeah,
this, then just think what a resource you'll be for all the other people that come into your office and sit down across from you and have similar kinds of challenges with other people, be that parent or a partner or a teacher or somebody that's not treating
yeah,
them well that that's not on them for that, right? That they have a choice to stay in that
yeah,
relationship or give or, accept whatever that other person's going to give them or not accept it because that's not a reflection on their
for
value.
sure.
I always heard this story, like it just depends on the setting. And there was this stone that was on the ground and it was just part of all the other pebbles and it was all dusty and gross because
Yeah.
it was on the road. But this little child saw it had like a glint on it. And so they picked it up and they dusted it off and they took it home. And then it turned out it was a cut diamond. And they took it to the jeweler
Oh
and
my goodness.
$10,000. And the pebble on the
Wow.
wood had a value of zero, but the stone in a setting, a princess cut setting, was worth $10,000. And is it the stone's fault where it was? No, its values depending on the setting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're the
No,
same
that's a
person that was laying on the road, and you're the same person that's on the beautiful setting now in your family. You're the same person.
yeah. No, I never thought of it like that, but yeah, that me feel a lot better actually. Like, yeah, it's a good perspective.
I mean, you can't let other people determine your value. You have to determine what your value is yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And especially, I have kids that I want them growing up to see, the best role model that I can be because of course I didn't have that. And, you know, I I I think that it's not about worrying if I'm going to be good enough. It's just about pouring into all the things that and areas that I know are going to fill my kids' cups, like and husband and all those things, but putting in that energy into those things and people that are thriving instead of, dwelling on the past at times, I think it would be huge.
Well, you only dwell on the past because you think that there's something in there that you didn't figure out and you want to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
So, what do you think is in the past that you didn't figure out?
Um, I mean, I'm sure there's a few things, but
No, like really, like from your
I,
perspective that you have now with your adult brain and your prefrontal cortex and
yeah,
your husband and your children that love you, like what do you think is in that experience that you need to watch out for, or that you know what I'm saying, like that presents a danger to you
yeah,
in the future?
yeah. Um, yeah, that's a good question. So I would say I think that my mom and dad both really struggled with both anxiety and depression. Um, I think like I said, my mom, narcissism, but if there was more, there could have been more underlying, you know, diagnoses that she's just never known about, or, she just never really took care of her mental health.
Very good.
And neither did my dad.
Yeah.
And so I guess just the emphasis on mental health. And I guess that's why I became a counselor myself. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, but the main thing is it doesn't have to, the meaning of all of that doesn't have to mean anything. I could tell you that the true meaning of it is that they did the best they could with what they had access to, if that makes sense. So if they have no money, then they
yeah,
can't build a castle for you and buy you a pony. Like they just didn't have it. They didn't
right,
have any
right.
love to give you. They
Yeah,
didn't love themselves. They didn't love each
for
other.
sure.
They didn't love anything. They are miserable people and they're doing the best they can today. And you can wish them well, but you don't have to worry that they're going to do that to you again or somebody else is going to do that to you again because all of those actions were based on something that had nothing to do with you. You were just a little
Yeah,
beautiful girl that was living in the shadows of your parents' own depression and despair.
yeah. No, that's a really another thing that I never really thought about, but really good to hear.
So, I mean, you have to forgive them, I guess. If you can forgive them, then you can make peace with it and you can leave it in the past.
Yeah,
And love doesn't, it's not a feeling, Libby, it's an action. So as long as you
yeah,
are,
I agree with that.
yes, as long as you are, when your children ask you if you can pick them up at a certain time and you're there on time and you make them breakfast and you listen to them tell you the story of their day and you give them another bath and you read them a bedtime story even when you're really tired and you care about what they're
Yeah,
afraid of and you let them talk to you about it. All those things are love, love, love personified through action. It's not an emotion, it's an act. And it's one that you take very seriously.
yeah,
And
for sure.
you're showing
Well,
them
thank you. Again, yeah, I needed to hear that. So thank you.
yeah. And so if they want to have a relationship with you now, I mean, I think if you can forgive them, then you can look at them like somebody that you used to know, kind of in a way, and not make it about you. But it takes a
Yeah,
lot of differentiation for that to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you are not them. They are not
yeah,
you. You are a completely separate person. You could have been adopted. Like these people could not even be your biological parents in some kind of
Right,
theoretical
right.
way. Maybe you
Yes.
were. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. One can only hope. No.
I just think that
But
it's difficult to separate yourself because you're the same spirit that you were when you were like 3 and 4 and 5 when you didn't have any sense of your own identity. That whatever they
yeah,
were going through was a projection of your value, but
yeah,
really not. So if you can look at your own children as a new beginning and your husband as a new beginning, like you are going to love them and hold them more dear than someone that always was given everything. They didn't have resilience and they don't have appreciation because they don't know any different.
yeah, yeah. I never thought of it like that, but yeah, another thing that I needed here for sure.
Yeah, I think you're doing really well. And I'm pretty proud and impressed with you for texting your dad and talking to him again, because that means that was always there. That was always there. The only reason you didn't talk to him before was because you were afraid that he didn't love you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it felt good to, yeah, communicate a little bit. And even though it wasn't much, it was, some kind of stepping stone kind of thing. And I guess baby steps.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to remember who they are. Like they're not going to morph into the Instagram ideal parents.
No,
Chances
for
are,
sure.
the chances are pretty close to zero that that's going to happen, based on what you told me. The best
Yeah,
indicator of future performance is
yeah,
present performance. But that doesn't mean you can't get para grandparents that are maybe the parents of your friends that love your kids
yeah, for
and
sure.
put your kids around those people because a lot of kids don't even grow up with any grandparents at all because they live across the country for them.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, no, we have neighbors that cross the road that they are retired and they have a million animals and love our kids like they're their own grandkids. So, we super appreciate that, and that's huge for us.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to always come and go out of your life. Like your parents are going to come and go out of your life. Like you were with them for a little while, now you're gone out of their life. They're
Yeah,
not dead, but they're not really, you know what I mean? And then you can just
right.
bring people in. And as we get older and older, some of our friends are going to pass away or they're going to move away. And that doesn't mean we're unlovable. They died or they moved to another country. But we can get new friends.
Yeah,
You can just look at your life like it's a progression of hellos and goodbyes.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
So what do you think that you could do in between now and the next 2 weeks before we meet again that would help you to kind of make some sense out of yourself as you are today versus your perception of yourself when you were young and with your parents?
Um, that's a good question. I think there's a lot of things, but
You were
I
saying
think
last time
just
that you
taking
wanted to
more
write
time to,
you were wanting to write a letter, remember?
yes,
I think
yeah,
that's an
I
interesting
I
idea.
thought about writing a letter.
Yes, writing a letter and getting all your thoughts out.
Yeah, I think that that would be, I'm gonna type it out because I don't like writing. I don't like my handwriting, but yeah, I think typing out some letters and then just having them for when I'm ready to send them would be a really good next step.
Okay, well, we're going to have to wrap up in a few more minutes, but is there anything else that you wanted to share with me so that I can kind of think about you between now and next time and kind of help you take the next step in your life? Because obviously nothing like this is ever solved in 160 minutes.
No, no, definitely not. Um, no, I don't think so. I think that that's about it. You've given me a lot of things to reflect on, and I think that, like I said, writing those letters is a good next step. And like I said, I might not send them right away, but I think, just having them there for when I am ready would be beneficial.
Mhm. Get it all out.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, so, thank you. And yeah,
I think you will really benefit from getting your feelings and your thoughts and your new perspective and what you're worried about and what that just put
yeah,
those fears down too. And like you said, you don't have to give it to them, so you don't have to hold back on it to be politically correct. You don't want to. But I would love to hear about
yeah,
those letters next time, what you came to realize, because I just gave you my perspective, but I work with a lot of people that have this challenge specifically. And as soon as they let go of letting other people determine their value and realize that it's their own choice as to what
yeah,
setting that they're going to be in, it opens up a whole new world for them.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, that's really good to know, and I appreciate your advice. I think those are some great ideas, and yeah, I look forward to chatting with you again in a couple weeks.
I do too. Thank you so much for your time today. And I hope that you have a wonderful time with your family over the next 2 weeks. And I can't wait to hear about your letters when we come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.